Let's look at the difference between multiplying and dividing fractions. So I've made two columns, multiplying and dividing fractions. Let's write down the rules. When you're multiplying fractions, you multiply the numerators. So let's write that down. Multiply the numerators. And then you multiply the denominators. Multiply the denominators. And it's as simple as that, really. So when you're multiplying fractions, you literally multiply across. Yeah. Let's see what we should be doing when we are dividing fractions. Dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So when we are dividing fractions, we keep the first number, which is the dividend. So keep the dividend the same. Then since we are multiplying by the reciprocal, we change the division to multiplication. So let's write that down. Change division to multiplication. And since we are now multiplying by the reciprocal, we have to find the reciprocal of the second number, which is called the divisor. So let's write that down. Find the reciprocal of the divisor. And once we have done that, we just multiply as usual. Now, one of the things to remember is that with multiplication, we do not find the reciprocal. I find that confusion in students, that they start finding the reciprocal with multiplication. So let's write that down. In multiplying fractions, you do not find the reciprocal. And you might want to make note cards for yourself to remind yourself how you do multiplying and dividing fractions. Let's take an example and see how we actually use these rules. So for example, if you're doing 3/8 times 7/5, you just multiply the numerators. So 3 times 7 is 21. And you multiply the denominators. 8 times 5 is 40. And if you're able to simplify, you should simplify it. But in this case, you cannot, so we leave it at this. Now let's take an example for division. So if you were doing 3/8 divided by 7/5, you keep the first number the same. First number is a dividend, so you keep the dividend the same. You change the division to multiplication, and you find the reciprocal of the second number, which is your divisor. So the reciprocal of 7/5 is 5/7. And once you've done these three, just multiply as usual. So you multiply the numerator with the numerator. So 3 times 5 is 15. And you multiply the denominator with the denominator. 8 times 7 is 56. And you should simplify if you can. But in this case, you cannot simplify it anymore. This is the simplest form. So you leave it at that. I hope this helped you to understand the difference between multiplying and dividing fractions.